Hello, my friends. It's Nancy Bastine, and I got a request from one of my viewers to show you how to make homemade jump rings. I'm just getting a drink of water here. For the last couple of days, I've had a raspy throat. It's just because the weather's changing, and I haven't been feeling good. So, excuse my voice. What you're going to need is some wire, of course. Now, the different gauges wire, the thinner the wire is, that doesn't make good jump rings. They come apart. So you need a thicker gauge wire. Now, this wire has no gauge on it, so I have no idea what it is, but it's pretty thin, and I'm going to make a, but I don't think it will hold real good for a jump ring. Now this one is 20 gauge, and it's really pretty thick. That's a good gauge, and I think this piece of wire is also 20 gauge. And I think this one is 18 gauge, and it makes a good jump ring. They stay together really good. I also have some aluminum in 18 gauge. This might be 16 gauge because it doesn't feel, no, it's not 16. It might be 20 gauge because it doesn't, it's not 16. I think it must be 20 gauge. I think it feels the same as that one. So you see I have wire in all different colors because, yeah, and then I bought a bunch of copper wire. So what I'm going to show you is, okay, I have some leftover wire. Don't ever throw your leftover wire away because you can always make jump rings out of it if it's the right gauge. I have some aluminum wire from the 18 gauge aluminum wire from the I'm trying to think of the Ace at the hardware store, and it'll make good jump rings. It'll be a little tough to cut, but it'll make good jump rings. Now what you need to do is have something that you want to make your jump ring on. Now this is just a pencil, and it's pretty big around, so if you want to make your jump rings that big around, that's good. If you want to make little jump rings, this is a skewer, just a bamboo skewer, and it will make you little teeny tiny jump rings. This is a dowel that'll make you big jump rings, and this is a medium-sized dowel that'll make you that size jump rings. Or you can purchase, which I did, a jump ring maker, which comes like this, has this little tool, and then you have all these different sizes of metal things. So if you want to make jump rings that big, you screw it in here, and maybe you screw it in the other way, and you wrap your wire around that, and I'll show you how to use this. But I find it easier. Now I made some jump rings this size because I needed smaller jump rings for my my angels that I made. Okay, so let's start with this wire that not sure what the gauge of it is, and I have this out because I don't want them going flying when I cut them. So I'm going to make it on this dowel, okay? So you just start wrapping it around like a corkscrew, like a screw. And just get it around as best you can. Okay? Just like that. And wrap it around. Now you want to, I kind of push mine together like so, like that. Then I take it off, and I get my little, you're going to need nippers. Let me pull you in a little closer. I can never tell on my camera how close you are. Okay, see these little ends? You kind of want to cut those little ends off. Not with those. You want to trim that little end off. And that little end. Okay, now you want to go in with your clippers. I'm going to pull this out just a little bit, just so you guys can see what I'm doing. Alright, see where that end is right there? You want to stick your clippers in right where that end is and start cutting. And there's your jump rings right there, see? So I'm going to do that all the way down. Just keep cutting them. Just make sure you go to the end where, on the end where you cut. And you'll probably get a screwy one at the end. Ugh. Let me pull that apart a little bit. Oh, it broke off there. Okay. So you kind of got a screwy one at the end, but it will work. You just kind of trim it off a little bit because it's overlapping. Okay, so now you have your jump rings. And they look like this. So now, when you want to use them, you just get your needle nose pliers and your flat nose pliers. Oh, come on. Okay, so they're open. You want to put them on something. You got them on there, and you're just going to rock it back and forth until you hear the ends meet. Okay? When you hear the ends meet, there is your jump ring. Okay? So we have that size. That was on this medium skewer. So you can use anything. So let's do one. And I'm going to pull off some of this copper wire here. I'm just going to cut a little bit off. A little bit goes a long ways in making jump rings. So you just want to start by putting it on your skewer and twisting it around like a screw. So basically, don't spend your money and go and buy these. Yeah, it's okay. You can. But now this is a little heavier wire than this. I can tell by wrapping it. So I'm not sure what gauge this is. It's got to be at least 20 gauge. Okay, and then I'm going to pull them off. And I have what looks like that. Okay, I'm going to pull you out a little bit. So I have a screw. It looks like a spring. I'm going to cut my little end off a little bit. I'm cutting it off to the side because I don't want it to go flying. I need to put my glasses on. I can see better. So right where you cut that off, you stick your trimmers right on that very edge. Okay? And you cut. Now this one's a little tougher wire, so it's got to be a heavier gauge than that one, okay? So let's see here. So there's one, there's two, and they're smaller. They're real small jump rings. And they're a little tougher to cut when they're a heavier gauge, but they make a better jump ring that way. You might want to pull these apart. You might not want them that close together. So you can see where you're cutting them. Like I said, this is heavier wire, so it's a little more difficult to cut. And they're also smaller. But just take your time. Cut. But make sure you go around to the end of where that end is. And just keep cutting. Now if you find this to be too big of a pain in the butt to make, but I haven't bought jump rings in I don't know how long since I figured out how to make them. Because I can make the size I want. Okay, so now you have something like that on the end. I don't know. I could probably trim it, but I don't know how good of a jump ring it'll make. See, that didn't make a very good jump ring, so I just toss those little ends. So now you have your little tiny jump rings like that. Okay. Alright, now I'm going to show you, but I'm going to use this heavier gauge wire from the hardware store, and it comes with a cutter on it. If you can ever use these cutters, I never can. There. Alright. Now, I suggest with your heavier duty wire, because it's going to be harder to twist around, that you maybe use a bigger circle. But you can try it. I just don't have very strong hands, but it does twist around, see? Now these are going to make heavy duty jump rings. And they're going to be big and they're heavy duty. So see? So I want to trim that off a little bit. Basically where the bend is, where it's straight. I could cut that off. And I'm just going to trim one of these at a time. Actually, they're trimming better. You see what I'm doing? Can you see where I'm at here? And then you got that end piece. And you've got your bigger jump rings, okay? And they work just the same way. As your other ones. And you just twist them back and forth. Twist them back and forth until they touch. You can feel them touch. And there you have your jump ring. So now we have made these little teeny ones, these medium-sized ones, and the large ones, okay? Out of just a little bit of wire, we've made all these jump rings. It would cost you, you know, $3 or $4 in a package. Sometimes you can get them online really cheap. You can get 1,000 of them in a thing, but you don't know what you're getting. Alright, now I'm going to show you how to use this little doodah thing. And I really have never found out how to really use it correctly, I don't think. So I'm going to make this size. So you screw it in. Okay, now you get your piece of wire. I'm going to use this aluminum wire because it's aluminum and it bends easy. Cut some off. Okay. Now, what I can figure out is there's a little tiny hole right there. You see that little tiny hole? So anyway, I think you stick your wire down in there and it kind of bends around. So it's your bottom of your thing. I'm not sure. And then you hold this somehow in your hand. On your finger. But I never can figure out this loop. So I just kind of go around and you just twist your wire around this thing just like you do your dowel or your pencil. And try not to overlap it. And just twist around. And then you unscrew it. And you got this big piece of wire here. And you just pull it off. And you trim this off. And then you start cutting your jump rings. Can you see? So you see, yeah, maybe this is a cool thing to have, to make your own jump rings in these different sizes. But you can go around your house and find round things to make jump rings on. And there you go. Oops. Now, you see this one? See that one? Just trim just a teeny bit off of the end. Like so. Did I show you that in camera, or was I off camera? Then you take and you rock it back and forth. And this one doesn't want to go in a round. And you just rock it back and forth until it closes. Sometimes it takes a little bit. And then you can fill it, hit, and then you can take your, see, it's not quite round. So you can take your flat nose and go up here, kind of bend it down a little bit. And this one's a little bit screwy. Didn't quite go round, but there you go. So that's how you make your homemade jump rings. I prefer to not use these because they tend to slip off of this slick stuff, and I like using pencils. You don't want to use a paintbrush because I've noticed that they'll be thin at the end, and then they get fatter. Unless you want to have jump rings that are all different sizes. You can get little ones and then medium size, you know, however far you wrap your wire around it. So I'm going to do some of, let's do this wire, because this is real thin wire. I don't like to use it so much for jump rings because I find out my jump rings don't stay closed if you're putting anything real heavy on it. And here I have this pencil, and pull you out a little bit. So I have a pencil, and I'm going to wrap it around this pencil. Okay, pull it off. Now that one was soft enough that I could get it to wrap around the end. So I don't, this one I need to trim off a little bit. So I'm going to take it and just start cutting it where those two ends meet. See? You might want to trim a little bit off. And then you just go back in where you trimmed the last one. This is real easy to cut. got my fingernail caught in that. So there was your end piece, and that won't work for anything. I got a snaggy fingernail. So anyway, these are really, really thin wires, so you can move them with your hands. You know, if you put something on there, connecting something. But I don't like them because they, you know, the wire's so thin that it won't hold. If you're going to string anything that's going to be heavy on them, this will pull apart. So I don't like that gauge wire to make jump rings with. But anyway, I like the aluminum ones. This is 18 gauge. I like the copper ones. These little bitty ones. And I like these bigger ones. So see, I've got a whole bunch of jump rings with just a little bit of fun wrapping and cutting and a little tiny bit of wire. Not much wire at all. So that is my tutorial today. I hope you all decide to go make you all some jump rings, because they are, you know, you can make them to the size you want. If you run out of jump rings and you don't have any more and you don't want to run to the store because you're in the middle of making something, here you go. You can make your own with just a little bit of effort and some tools, nippers, your pencils, your dowels, your skewers, and if you choose to buy a maker. I wish I had never spent the money on it. Oh, I was going to show you one other tool. This is also a jump ring making tool. You just twist your wire around. Oh, come on. So you just twist your wire around. And you hold it. You hold it with this tool. And you twist it around, and then you can make one jump ring. I've never figured it out really good. I think how you use it is you hold your wire closed with it and twist it around. I can't figure it out, but I know it does make that. It does make a jump ring. So there you go. Alright, that's all my tutorial for today. I hope you go try some. Make your own, and I'll be back in a little while with some other fun things to make. Alright, thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and please share, and please leave me a comment, because I like to read your comments. So thank you very much, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.